from shoulder position to overhead. First off, of course, you must have to be able to clean it, so we've covered that clean. Then we're going to go forward from that position. You've just finished that position in a squat, and so we need to start by bringing those feet back into a power jump stance. So bringing them back in slightly. Yes, toes are going to be slightly out, just as before. And now elbows need to come down slightly. Okay, if they're up high in that front rack position, we're not going to be able to press overhead very well. So we need to bring those elbows down and out slightly and take away the hook grip. We want a normal grip for this overhead press. From there, a nice rigid torso. We want those hips sat back just slightly so that when we dip, our hips go down vertically, and then consequently when we raise, back up vertically. We don't want any forward and back motion. So the hips clear, just slightly back, then dip, knees forward, and we're going to then push the bar up. Okay, if we want to get that start position, Austin. Excellent. Okay, so we're there. From that, we're going to bring those feet in slightly again into a nice jump stance. The elbows come down and out a little bit. We take away the hook grip. Now the weight's a little bit more in our arms, and now we're going to use the legs to drive up and create this upward propulsion. In order to do that, we first stand nice and tall. We brace the core. We hit the hips back just slightly, just to allow them. And then what we're going to do is have currently locked out legs. They're going to flex and go roughly towards the line in front of their toes. Now, commonly see if you have a really strong person, they want to use their legs and they dip a little lower. Someone that's a little weaker, they don't want to dip so much. But roughly, right about toe level, where their knees come forward and the hips should descend vertically. They should just go straight down. We don't want them to go backwards. We don't want them to go forward too much. Straight down. We want to stop abruptly at the bottom. So once we get to this position, we want to stop. What that does is we get heavier weight. There's going to be a slight bounce to this bar. The weight's going to bounce slightly if you abruptly stop. And when it bounces down, it's going to have a subsequent bounce back up. That's a good momentum to use to propel that weight up above your head. So we're in that standing position, we're nice and tight, hips slightly back, weight evenly distributed over those toes, and then elbows down and out, nice grip. We're going to descend, knees forward towards the toes, and then abruptly stop, and then you're going to punch through and use your legs, again, almost a triple extension, lifting those up as fast as you can, creating momentum. Now you're not going to push with your arms until your legs actually move that bar off your shoulders. You're going to generate so much force that the bar lifts off your shoulders, and once that momentum starts, you finish with the arms. While you do that, you simultaneously are going to split stance. So you're going to split one leg in front of the other. You can choose which leg, depends where you're dominant. You're going to go roughly about a third forward with one leg and 2/3 back with the other. And we want a nice vertical shin. So go ahead and just show that all the way through, and then we'll break it down again.
From the bottom?
All the way, from just the jerk. Good. Dip and then explode through. Excellent. Overhead. And you can see here, this front shin was vertical. Go ahead and do it again. We dip down, knees forward. Waiting for it, explode overhead. Internally rotating those arms, taking the weight in the traps and not in the arms themselves, a lot stronger muscle. That front leg should be vertical. Okay, too far forward, I'm going to have too much pressure in that quad, almost a chance to damage the knee. Too far back, weight's going to be pushed onto the low back. So we want it right vertical. The back leg, heel is elevated, toes are driving into the ground, and a slight bend in the knee. We don't want it locked out. If it's locked out, then we're going to have more pressure into the back, and we don't want that. And then toes. Toes should be slightly in on both the front and the back. Generally, they're straight forward, but we don't want them to open at all. If they open, you're going to get a lateral torque in that knee, potential to damage it. So a slight inward rotation in those toes. Excellent. So we see those coming in. Don't overly excessively do it. but that's keeping us nice and strong and using those thighs and the glutes. Then when we step in, it's front foot back foot forward. So it's always front foot back first. We want to try and keep that bar nice and tall in that position. If we step forward, the bar moves forward. Stepping back, the bar just moves up, and then we come back. So we don't want to have too much motion with this heavy weight above us. So when it's there, we're in that position, we wedge up, we push the bar, we make sure we have tension, we step back, and then the back leg steps forward, creating a nice amount of tension. Some of the common mistakes that we see is if the hips don't go down vertically, they do go back or they do go forward in that dip, then when you come back up, you're going to be pushing that bar forward or back and not straight over our head. So we're trying to get this as technique detailed as possible, straight over the head. Often we'll see you try to hold the weight with the arms. Okay, your arms are not as strong as your shoulders and traps in the back, so we want internal rotation. Lock out those arms so that the weight falls onto the big trap muscles, and you can be nice and stable in that position. And that's about it. I think we covered pretty much everything there on the jerk. A little bit simpler than the clean. We're just getting that from that shoulder overhead. But next we'll move on to the snatch.